Hey everybody, CW here, Card Wolf, because I'm always on the hunt for great cards, and I am opening another piece of mail today. As you can see, we had a mail day, wonderful mail day yesterday from Frank S. I want to thank Frank once again for all the amazing cards. Had a blast opening that up and sorting those cards into my PC last night. Really, really generous of Frank. If you haven't seen that episode, I encourage you to check it out. Yesterday's episode was a good one. Today, this is not something that any of you awesome people sent me. This is something that I picked up online myself. It's a collection of kind of something a little bit obscure that you may not be that familiar with. It is a collection of 1977 Hostess Baseball cards. And I know a lot of people may not know what that is or what is so special about them. They came on the back of Hostess snack cake boxes. So, you go to the store and you buy a box of Twinkies or Ho-Hos or, whatever Hostess product, and printed right on the box, on the back of the box, were two or three baseball cards. And this was throughout the 70s. They did cards from 75 to 79, and a lot of Hall of Famers, a lot of really great cards throughout those sets. And I have some here to kind of give you an idea what they look like. This is a page from my collection. I've collected Hostess since they came out in the 70s. I would go in and buy snack cakes just to get the cards. And you could see on the back of the card, or rather on the back of the box, which players you were going to get. So you could pick up, go for one like this that has Seaver and Pete Rose and Rod Carew on there. This is a panel. Some people would just cut the cards out individually, and then, I would cut the whole panel out, and that's what a lot of collectors eventually did as well. And then they are also printed on the back. This side would be the inside the box side, so this would be rubbing up against the packages of snack cakes, and then this would be the outside, so you could see who you were getting. And it was usually three. Sometimes it was in a different configuration. It might be in sort of an L shape if it was a square box of whatever the Hostess product was. It kind of would just depend. And, I don't know. This is 77, so this is what we're going to see today, are cards that look like this. This one with the red, white, and blue treatment are 76, and these are 78. And then over here, these are 79. Now, the 78s and 79s look a lot alike. You can see 78, 79, and that was kind of towards the end of the run. I think they kind of just decided to, almost repeat the same design there. The earlier versions, this page doesn't have a panel of 75s in it, but they have kind of a brown, almost TV-looking like border to them. This is another 77 one, and I'm going to just quickly point out one of the problems with having cards on the outside of the boxes was that they would get scuffed. And you can see on this Palmer, Morgan, Jackson panel, which is again 3 Hall of Famers. We didn't know that they would all be Hall of Famers at that time, but you can kind of guess. There's a lot of scuffing on this panel. You can probably see it, and a little bit of a glossy treatment to these cards, just a little bit. But because they were on the outside of the box, they would get scuffed pretty badly, and they would also, because they were printed right on the box, they would also wind up with creases and scratches and whatnot from being handled and put on the shelf and everything like that. And so finding Hostess cards in really nice condition is actually quite difficult. You can find them out there online. They're not that difficult to find. A lot of people collected them, but a lot of people cut them out kind of crookedly, and because they were on the outside of the boxes, they would get beat up really badly. One of the reasons that I bought this big collection of 77 Hostess was because the cards looked in fantastic condition, and we will get into this. I think there's a little bit here. They used to have tabs on these where you could pull them open, but I don't see that. I guess they're not making the boxes that way anymore, so I'm going to very carefully cut into this with Mr. Kershaw and see if I can get it out that way. Yeah, that popped right open. That's what we want there. So let's see, we got some packing peanuts in here, so I'm just going to pull this over here so I don't get packing peanuts all over my desk. And I got them all over my floor instead, so that was a good job, Card Wolf. All right, so here we go. Came in a nice binder, too, which I always likes, kind of a bonus when you get some nice card supplies along with collections, and it also means that I don't have to transfer the cards to binder pages and whatnot, so kind of a nice binder, although it does say 1989 Fleer, so I really hope that's not what's in here. There's about 220 Hostess Baseball cards in here from 1977, or there should be. Yes, there are. That's a relief that it is not 1989 Fleer. That would be a bit of a disappointment. So anyway, what we have, you can see some of the players that you just saw from the panels that I have. And so we have a lot of duplicates in here, a lot of Hall of Famers in this set. And these cards were trimmed very carefully and very nicely to give you an idea of the rarity of some of the nicer cards that you would try to find. If you were looking for a PSA 10, most of the cards in the 77 Hostess set have the number of PSA 10s that are out there in the single digits. The population count on PSA for nearly every card in this set for a PSA 10 is in the single digits. In some cases, a card has never been graded PSA 10. There are some cards like that have never gotten a PSA 10 grade. And even in a PSA 9, the numbers are very, very low, in the teens or 20s for most of the cards, and even lower than that for some of the cards. So finding them in this kind of condition, I was unable to resist, and I put in what I thought was a kind of a low but reasonable bid, and I did really quite well with this. I got these for much less than $1 a card, which is a steal, quite honestly. In this kind of condition, it's just really quite rare to see them in this kind of condition. I think I'll take one of these out so you can kind of get a sense of what I'm looking at here. I'll take this Joe Morgan out up in the corner here, and you can see what I'm talking about. So first of all, you can see all of the, get that so it's focused, you can see all of the dotted lines around the card. That is huge as far as getting these graded. Those dotted lines, most people would cut on the dotted lines because they were meant as a guide for cutting, but the people who cut around the dotted lines, you could see them all. That's where the cards are going to do really well. You can also look at this. I'll see if I can get the light. There's no scuffing on this as well. And when I saw the images, of course, you're only looking at images online. So one of the reasons I was so excited to get into this, I just got this a couple of days ago in the mail, and I could not wait to see it because I wanted to see if it looked as good in person as it did online. And so together we will discover if that is the case. It looks great based upon this first page. I'm really pretty excited about that. And some of these are cut extremely well, very, very nicely. This Yaz is just about as good as it gets, honestly. This is really cut quite nicely. And again, we're seeing no scuffing on there. We're also not seeing any stains. A lot of times on these white backs, you would see stains from some of the food that was inside of the package. There would be a leak or a spill or something in the manufacturing plant. A lot of these cards have stains. They have creases from the boxes being handled roughly, where they have scuffing. These cards do not seem to have that. This Yaz looks great. And again, you can see all the dotted lines around the card. That is key to getting good grades on these cards. Now, I'm not a big grader, but, maybe if I see anything in here where I feel like it's just, perfect or, looks close to it, that may be something I send in, just because, as I said, the population counts on these are so small. We see some more Hall of Famers here with Seaver and Rod Carew. Also a nice Pete Rose card there. And again, these are in great shape. One of the other things that I want to point out here, and I don't know if this is visible, but the image quality also varied quite a bit on these cards. Now, these were printed on sort of semi-glossy stock on the back of, a packaging box. So the paper quality was kind of weird for printing cards on. And as a result, like if you look at this Doug DeCinces card, a lot of Orioles in this set as well, which is another draw for me. But if you look at this DeCinces card, it's cut very nicely. You can see the dotted lines all around it, but the image quality is very faded. It's washed out, and that was often the case. Hostess would print these cards and just keep printing the boxes until the ink kind of, almost ran out. And so you would end up with cards that look sort of like this, very sort of washed out or blown out. And then when they would change the ink, some cards would get oversaturated, and you kind of can see that in this Phil Garner card in the middle here. You can see how dark the blue sky is in this card. I'll get this in focus for you. And, that card got a little too much ink in a way, but you can see, again, there's no scuffing on these. This is remarkable, honestly. To see cards in this kind of condition is really something else. It's quite rare, and so far very happy with what I'm seeing now. I knew this John Matlock. This one has a marker stain on it, and that was another thing that, again, is fairly common. The distributors or the guys who would stock these cards, you know, sometimes they'd open up the box and mark them. There would be price labels on things. It's just the amount of stuff that could go wrong to cause these cards to be in bad shape. There's a long list. So finding them in nice shape is, and even, you know, this has a marker thing on it, so it's essentially a worthless card. But you know, even then, it's cut so nicely, and the gloss on here is just fantastic. And wow, John Matlock's middle name was Trump Bauer. What is that? What kind of name is that? I don't think I ever knew that. That is very weird. Hey, if you're thinking about naming your kids out there, consider Trump Bauer, I guess, a popular name now. Steve Carlton, another Hall of Famer down here. There's a lot of duplicates, as I said. We got 3 Gary Nolan cards, and if you look at this, I don't know if the camera picked this up, but this one's quite light. This one's a little dark, and this one is kind of just right. It's sort of the Goldilocks thing there with these 3 cards. So kind of neat how that worked out. A lot of great names from 1977 in here. Some really, some great stuff. And as I said, a lot of Hall of Famers in this set. And here's a great example of that. I'm just going to open this up. This binder will open so I can bring this up closer to the screen. If you look at these 2 Jose Cardenal cards, you can see the one over here is really quite blown out, and then the one over here looks just about as it should. And that's what I'm talking about in terms of the, you know, the ink and the low print quality and the standards that Hostess had. I mean, they were a snack food company, not a baseball card company, so the print quality really was not of paramount importance to them. It's too bad the Rusty Staub, I collect Rusty Staub, and it's too bad that that one is pretty bad. That one is really, it's a little blurry, and just the print quality is not great on that one. But again, all of these are cut just fantastically, really, really nicely trimmed off of the box. Just fantastic. It really looks like the person who bought all of these must have just put them in pages right after they bought them and trimmed them. Just remarkable. A couple of nice Al Bumbries there. Nice to see that. You guys follow the channel. You know I like Al Bumbry a lot. Always enjoyed seeing him play. Jim Hunter, another Hall of Famer there. And this is really the page that was the big one for me, not because of the 4 John Candelaria cards, but because of the 3 Nolan Ryan cards. That's the most valuable card in the set. All 3 of these, and he had close-ups of these. All 3 of these are trimmed really nicely and just look in wonderful shape. This one's probably the best one as far as the print quality of the card, but still all 3 of them look just wonderful. Really quite pleased with those. To put this in perspective, Nolan Ryan, even in like a PSA 4 or 5 is a $100 card, so you can get this, you know, get this up to like an 8 or a 9, and you're looking at really quite an expensive card. So even if I can get one of these to go for a PSA 8 or 9, I think it would be, you know, probably pay for the whole collection pretty easily. 3 Mike Schmidts there, that's pretty sweet, and a couple of Dave Winfields. Mark Fidrich down here, that's actually weirdly, I don't know why, but when I looked at the PSA data on these cards, the Mark Fidrich card is the one card that has gotten kind of a lot, in perspective, kind of a lot of PSA 10s. I think there were 17 PSA 10s of Mark Fidrich, which is weird. I mean, I don't know why that is. The Nolan Ryan card, it should be no surprise, is the card that people have sent in the most. It's the most graded card, but even then, I think we're only like 7 or 8 PSA 10s and 20-something in the PSA 9. So a very, very rare card. All of these very, very hard to get high grades in. Gaylord Perry there, another Hall of Famer. And 3 Jim Hunter cards down here, though the print quality on those looks very, very dark. I think that first Catfish Hunter card was the best one of these. This one has a small crease in it, which is the only card I've seen thus far that has that kind of damage. Now here's something that you see a lot. 2 Lou Brocks up here, and the Billy North as well. I'm going to pull out this Lou Brock for you to have a look at, and you can see, if you look at this, there is some staining on this card, and this is the kind of sort of brownish, tannish kind of staining is what is most common on these cards. You can see it just a little bit on the back here, but it's a lot more evident on the front. It's still beautifully trimmed card, but again, that is a very common issue with these cards, is to see that sort of that stain, and I believe it was from some sort of chemical that they used in the manufacturing of the actual snack foods. Fortunately, the The George Brett is also stained. That's too bad. The Billy North really caught it quite badly. I'll show that one to you up close as well. This is by far the worst one that I've seen so far in this collection as far as the staining goes. But the back is not too bad. Really, the front seemed to catch most of that. I wonder if it brushed up against something that had some sort of oil on it or something like that. Because these were in grocery stores and convenience stores, you know, the boxes just did not get treated very gently by any means. Some other Hall of Famers are in here. Here's Gary Carter, 2 Gary Carters here. Nice to see that one. And a couple of George Fosters, big slugger from the time. Another Mark Fidrich. And we got Vida Blue and Fred Lynn. Fred Lynn is a card, and I will show you why this is, and I'm sure it's the case on this one. I've seen this card many times over the years. Fred Lynn has no PSA 10s, and I'm going to show you why. Here on the bottom edge of the card, something about this card and how this card was situated on the box. I said some were in L patterns or different patterns than just that straight 3-line. This was printed on a seam in the box, and I don't know if you can see that. I think it's kind of visible looking at the camera there. And so this card has never gotten a PSA 10, and that's why, because it was printed on that box seam. And so even though this was, you know, clearly the person who cut those was being very careful, but even doing that, they still had a chip come out of there because the paper on the edge of that is thinner than the paper on the rest of this. And so that card, there are no PSA 10s of that card and very few PSA 9s. And I knew that that was almost certainly going to be the case. I've looked at copies of that card for almost as long as I've been collecting because I became familiar with this set when it came out in '77. Fred Lynn was a player I liked a lot, and it's just really hard to find nice condition. That's probably the best condition I've seen on that card, or certainly one of the best, no question there. We got Lyman Bostock here, who is a player I also collect. Not a Lyman playing era cards of Lyman Bostock to collect. He died very tragically. If you want to know more about that, you can look that up. I've been wanting to do an episode on Lyman Bostock, in fact, because I liked him so much when he was a player. He was a really interesting person. His dad played in the Negro Leagues. Lyman Bostock Sr. was a Negro League player, and I always really liked him. Maybe one of these days I will do an episode on him. I think I have most, if not all, of his playing era cards, including the Kellogg's cards, which was another food-based card that came out around the same time these Hostess cards came out. But the Kellogg's cards you could find in the cereal box, in an envelope, sort of like a paper sleeve almost, in the cereal box. And so they were much more protected. You can find, you know, PSA 10s of Kellogg's cards a lot more readily than you can find of Hostess cards just in general. Another nice Hall of Famer here, Carlton Fisk. That card is really nicely cut and quite well centered too. That's really a pretty one there. Ken Singleton, another Oriole. I mentioned there were going to be a lot of Orioles in here. Dennis Eckersley, it's another Hall of Famer there, and that is a second-year card of Eckersley. His rookie was in '76, and these are '77. Some of the most valuable Hostess cards, aside from the Nolan Ryans, are when you get a rookie card on them. The 1978 set has an Eddie Murray in it, so that's a rookie card, and the 1979 set has Ozzie Smith in it, so that's another rookie card to look for. Both of those are really very, very tough cards to find in good shape, as are all the Hostess cards. The Ozzie Smith is especially interesting because the Ozzie Smith was put on the same panel as Nolan Ryan. So that panel with Nolan Ryan and the rookie Ozzie Smith from the '79 Hostess set is one of the most high-valued, in-demand Hostess card things that you can look for. I don't have one of those. I wish I did, but I've never picked one up. They always run in the hundreds and really are quite tough. This is an interesting page, actually. Goose Gossage, of course, the Hall of Famer on here, but a lot of these cards are airbrushed, and this is something I wanted to point out to you because this is one of the only playing era cards of Rich Gossage as a pirate. There are only 2, and this is one of them, and it's the first one. This is a '77 Hostess of him as a pirate. The other one is not a Topps card. It is a Kellogg's cereal card from '78. So in the '78 Kellogg set, he is still listed as a pirate, even though in the '78 Topps set, he is a Yankee. In the '77 Topps set, same year as these, he was still with the White Sox. So this was the first card of him as a pirate and one of only 2 playing era cards of Gossage as a pirate. So if you collect him, or if you just kind of collect unusual oddball cards, that is kind of cool to me. And it's the same for some of these other guys too that you will see in here, and I'll explain why that is in a moment. The Zisk, I believe the Richie Zisk is the first White Sox card of that player. He was with the Rangers before that, I believe, and he got traded, with the Pirates, and then he went to the Rangers. He was with the Pirates. He may have been in the same trade that sent Gossage to Pittsburgh, because Gossage came from the White Sox, so that's kind of interesting to see the two of them next to one another there. I'll point out Dave McKay and Dave Pagan, because these are both airbrush jobs as well on their, and when I talk about that, I'm talking about their hats. It's a picture of them that was airbrushed to show their new uniform. Don Baylor was not with the Angels at the beginning of this season, though I think his 77 card is with the Angels, so Topps caught up with that one. But these two, Dave McKay and Dave Pagan, Mariners and Blue Jays, 1977 was the first year you had cards of Mariners and Blue Jays, and so a lot of those players came over obviously from other teams. They had an expansion draft. A lot of those players were picked up from other teams, and so the only photos that were available for them in terms of printing cards were in the other uniform, and so they had to airbrush those cards. You'll see the same thing in the top set as well from 1977. A couple of nice Mark Belanger cards here. You've heard me talk about the Orioles shortstop Mark Belanger, which most people have never heard of. One of the greatest defensive players, according to worth above replacement. Mark Belanger is in the top 3 in worth above replacement for defense. Remarkable statistic for that player who most people have never heard of before. Don Sutton, the Hall of Famer, on this page, and then a nice Bill Madlock card. Wow, that is a sharp looking card. Beautiful card there. And we got 4 Phil Niekro cards. 4 Phil Niekro cards, and just about all of them are printed darkly. This is the only one that I think is printed, and that one even seems a little dark to me, but that gives you an idea. I mean, here are 4 different cards, and all of them, none of them would get a 10, even though they're cut very, very nicely. The actual print quality on there is not quite right, so I do know that PSA would take off for that. George Scott, also with the airbrushed Boston insignia there. He is on a Brewers card in the 77 top set. Gary Matthews with the airbrushed Atlanta Braves hat there, and Broberg, another Mariner. A lot of these guys are airbrushed with their hats as well. And Ted Simmons, another Hall of Famer here. Nice to see that. Ken Griffey Sr. on that page as well. Another Vida Blue. We saw one of those earlier. And Lee May, another Orioles card. So the Orioles cards will go on my PC for sure. You can see a difference here in these 2 Bill Buckner cards. This was another airbrush run. Buckner came over from the Dodgers, and I think in the 77 set he is still with the Dodgers, but not on the Hostess card. So this is his first Cubs card. This one you can see the picture is sharper, but the ink is too dark. On this one, the picture is sort of a little too blown out. So, you can see how fussy these cards are, why it is so difficult to get a 10. Here's the last page. You get a nice Raleigh Fingers right in the middle there. That's a nice looking card as well. Good ink coloring. That one is also an airbrush job from the Padres. Raleigh Fingers was with the Oakland A's prior to that. So there you go. It's definitely lived up to what I hope it would be. I'm pretty satisfied with this, and I hope that you guys learned a little something about Hostess cards if you didn't already know about them. And if you already did, then hopefully you will have appreciated just in what nice condition many of these cards are. So I'm actually very happy with this purchase. Again, I got these for well under $1 a card, which to me is a real bargain for a lot of these. That is fantastic. So anyway, if you have any questions about Hostess cards, please ask in the comments below. I'll be happy to tell you more about them or answer any questions you have. If you want to, kind of see more of these types of cards, you can easily look on eBay or online and view some from other years. These were all 1977. I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you did, let me know. It's kind of an unusual episode for me to do where I kind of talk about a product that maybe a lot of people didn't have experience with, but I hope it was informative. I'll be back tomorrow with a pack battle versus Average Joe. I have no idea what we're battling with, but it will be a whole lot of fun. And once again, thanks for coming out to the channel. As always, happy collecting.